All right, today we're going to dig into the very bedrock of what makes a government tick, or, what makes it fail. We're using these incredible scholarly notes as our guide to really explore the qualities, the absolute core DNA that's needed for public service to be both effective and ethical. Okay, let's get into it.
I mean, that's a massive question, isn't it? But really, it all comes down to people, specifically the people who are running the whole machine, the civil servants. So what kind of person does it take? What skills? What kind of mindset? What moral code do you need to actually serve the public good? That's exactly what we're going to break down.
So here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at the basic blueprint of a public servant. Then, we'll get into the whole talent versus mindset debate. After that, we'll build their moral compass with some foundational values, see how that all plays out in the real world, and finally, we'll wrap up with why any of this is so important for good governance.
Okay, let's start at square one. Before we can even get into all the talk about ethics and values, we've got to understand the fundamental building blocks of a civil servant. What's the raw material we're even looking for?
The very first building block is aptitude, and the definition here is absolutely key. It's not just a skill you learn in a class. It's an innate, an inborn potential. Just think of it like the natural talent someone brings to the table. Yeah, you can train it, you can make it better, but you can't just create it out of thin air. So what does this aptitude actually look like for a civil servant in their day-to-day? Well, it's a whole toolkit of different abilities. It's having the resilience to handle insane pressure and the diligence to just get the job done. It's the admin skills that keep the gears of government turning and that broad knowledge you need to tackle really complex problems. These are the core talents you have to survive and hopefully thrive in public service.
Right, so having the right talent, the right aptitude, is obviously crucial. But is it enough on its own? This brings us to a really critical distinction, the difference between your aptitude and your attitude.
This chart just lays it out so perfectly. Aptitude is all about your ability. Attitude is your mindset. So if an official isn't very efficient, hey, that could be an aptitude problem, and you can fix that with some training. But, and this is what the notes really emphasize, if an official is corrupt, that's an attitude problem. That's not a lack of skill. That is a deep, fundamental issue with how they think.
And this quote, wow, it just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? You can have all the raw talent in the world, but if your mindset, your attitude is twisted, it's all for nothing. In public service, attitude isn't just a nice to have, it's everything. It's what decides how high you'll actually rise, not just in your career, but in your service to the people.
So, if attitude is the real game changer, what shapes it? Well, this brings us to the absolute heart of our explainer today. The foundational values that act as a moral compass for every single public servant. I just love this handwritten definition because it's so clear and direct. Foundational values are what make an institution special, what makes it unique. For the civil service, these values are pretty much its soul. They define its entire purpose and the promise it makes to the public.
Let's kick off with a huge one, impartiality. This is the very bedrock of fairness. It means you make decisions based on merit, not who you know or what your biases are. It's tied right in with nonpartisanship, this duty to serve the government that's in power, no matter the political party, and to serve every citizen equally. Basically, it's about being the calm, objective guide in a very political storm.
But, public service can't just be about cold, hard facts and objectivity. A government isn't just a machine of rules. It has to have a heart. That human element is absolutely vital. So let's zoom in on a value that really brings the service part of public service to life: compassion.
See, compassion isn't just about feeling bad for someone. The notes here call it an emotional urge to serve, and this example shows you exactly what that means. Take a look at Jitendra Christ Soni. He saw that 900 schools had no electricity, and he didn't just file a report and forget about it. His compassion drove him to actually do something, to get them power and upgrade the buildings. And that one single act of service, it became the model for an entire state. That's the real power of a value like compassion.
And in a diverse society, another value becomes just essential: tolerance. A civil servant is basically standing at the crossroads of all these different cultures, religions, and ways of thinking. Their job is to be the bridge, to help create a social ethos where all this diversity isn't just tolerated, but it's actually respected and understood.
So we've got all these amazing, powerful values. But what happens when they crash into the messy, complicated, real world of governing? How do they actually turn into action?
Okay, this is such a fantastic breakdown of two words we use all the time, sometimes without thinking: responsibility and accountability. Accountability is the external stuff, following the rules, the letter of the law, but responsibility, that comes from within. It's a moral thing, a personal commitment to just do the right thing. It's the spirit of the law. A truly great public servant needs both. They have to follow the rules, but they're always guided by that inner sense of duty.
And sometimes that inner compass gets put through the ultimate test. This brings us to this idea of a crisis of conscience. Just imagine being ordered to do something, to enforce a policy that you believe is deeply morally wrong. That's where this crazy mental tension comes from, when the job's demands clash head-on with your core values. Figuring out how to handle that is one of the toughest things any public servant will ever have to face.
So, we've walked through aptitude, attitude, and all these values, which brings us to our final and probably most important question. Why does any of this actually matter?
It matters because this is the end game. What you're seeing here, this is what good governance is supposed to look like. It's not about endless paperwork. It's about being pro-people. It's about participation, transparency, fairness, and accountability. And there's just no way, absolutely no way, you can get these results without public servants who have the right skills, the right mindset, and an unshakable moral code. At the end of the day, everything we've talked about, it isn't just some academic exercise. It's not just theory from a textbook. These principles, aptitude, compassion, impartiality, responsibility, they are the literal DNA of a government that people can actually trust. They're the bedrock of a society that is fair, that is just, and that actually works.
So, I'll just leave you with this to think about. In a world that's getting more complex by the second, having the skills to manage everything is more important than ever. But here's the thing. Skills without a conscience can be incredibly dangerous. The real challenge, the one we all face, is making sure the people in power have both, the aptitude to lead well and the conscience to serve selflessly.